In this video, I'm going to share with you the basics of working with the new moon and the full moon and how you can best align with these energies to get the most out of the lunar cycles. My name is Carolyn Yakupich and welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, the moon represents our emotions. It's the feminine energy, and it also represents our psyche. It's how we process the feelings that are moving through us. It gives us an opportunity to look at where we are in our life and where we want to go, and also what we want to release so that we can move forward in more alignment. Now, that statement from Hermes Trismegistus is, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. All of the energies of the cosmos play a part within our human body. We are connected. This vast network of the universe is within us. And we are a drop in the ocean just as we are the ocean. We are deeply connected when we tap into these energies. And when we start to witness and work with these energies, it's such a beautiful thing, because you'll start to see that things that are playing out in your life are exactly in alignment with what is going on. And it's really magical when you know what to expect and what these specific energies hold and what the signs hold as a theme to work with. So I'll explain this further. We have in the Zodiac wheel this sun sign moving through the different stages of the Zodiac. So for instance, we are currently in Libra season. So the sun is in Libra. That means that everyone who is a Libra in their sun sign, it is that period of time that we're working with Libra season. And then when we look at the moon is going to be when it's new, linked up with the sun sign. So the new moon that is approaching on October 14th is the new moon in Libra. It's also an eclipse, and I'll get into that more in another video. But we're going to really zero in and focus on right now on the moon cycles and the lunar cycles and how to use them. So we have the new moon in Libra, and we have the sun sign in Libra. This means that we have amplified energy around the themes of Libra. So when we work with the new moon, it is always going to match the sun sign. So the same sign will be where the sun is in the new moon. And then the full moon will be the exact opposite on the zodiac cycle from where the new moon is. So 180 degrees from Libra, you will find Aries. So we just came out of the full moon in Aries. We're still working with those energies currently as we lead up to the new moon. And we have these polar opposites. So these are the themes that we're working with currently. So the full moon and the new moon, being 180 degrees apart, will be in that same sun sign. So we've been in the sun sign of Libra while we had the full moon in Aries, and then 180 degrees from Aries, we have the new moon in Libra, which matches the sun sign. And so we can look at, if we break it down, the moon itself representing our psyche and our emotions and that feminine receptivity. We look at the full moon. The full moon is a time where we are at a completion. We are releasing our energy. We're letting go of things that are not in alignment with where we want to go and what is most connected and aligned for our highest purpose. And then we have the new moon, and the new moon represents a new beginning. It's a time where we can look at where we want to go and really be clear on our intentions. Now, energetically, a new moon is when the moon is at its darkest point. So the moon is dark, the moon is weighing down, and this is very introspective for ourselves as well. It's when our energy as human beings, that as above, so below, applies. So our energy starts to go inward and inward and inward during the new moon cycle. So when the new moon peaks at that exact time, our energy is at its lowest point. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there is exhaustion. It simply means that it's at that low point for us to turn inward and to really reflect on where we're going forward. And so we can use this energy, like I said, to put out our intentions, to really plan for what we want during this next 2 weeks before we move into the full moon energy that follows. And so we start with the theme of the sign. And so we have right now coming the Libra, right? The Libra new moon within the Libra sun season. So we are completely amplified in that energy of Libra. Libra represents the scales of justice. And one of my favorite stories from Egyptian mysticism is speaking about these scales. We have Anubis, who is the god of the underworld. And then we have the goddess Ma'at, who represents truth. Ma'at has a feather, and the feather represents truth. At the time of death, when humans are passing over, Anubis, the god of the underworld, will take the heart of the human and place it on the scale up against the feather of Ma'at, which represents truth. And this mysticism tale states that however light your heart is will determine if you either come back to earth to continue the cycle of karma, or if your heart is as light as a feather, meaning the scales are balanced, you are able to ascend and move back into source consciousness and be part of all that is. And we are still part of all that is as we are here on earth, yet we have forgotten. So this is why we are here, to remember. So now we have that new moon energy to look at with Libra, and all throughout Libra season, is my heart as light as a feather? And where am I holding on to emotions or energy or resentment or anger or frustration or things that are keeping me separate from the truth? Where am I still playing out illusion in my life or buying into the illusion and the stories of separateness and division? And so we take that energy and we look at our intentions of how we want to align with our truth for the new moon cycle. What is it that I want to create in alignment with my heart and with my soul in my higher purpose? And so we're really looking at those energies coming up. So now I'm going to backtrack, because we had the full moon in Aries, which is the 180 degrees. So the full moon comes first, and then we have the new moon within the sun sign. And the full moon that was in Aries, 180 degrees opposite of Libra, is all about where we are holding on to the ego battle, the ego struggle. So Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is the planet of action and energy. So it's very fiery and it supports us to move. And Mars is the god of war. So it brings in this fiery energy that can be set off very easily when it's out of balance and disharmonious. And when we actually are aligned with it, our movement is in alignment with our soul. So let's look at that for a moment. What does it mean to be aligned with our soul? It means that we find the stillness within. We become a receptacle, meaning we are a clear channel. We're not bombarded by the ego pulling us this way and that way. We're not pulled out of the present moment into our past stories, our past hurts, our past dramas, and we're not projecting those old emotions and feelings into the future. So when we are in alignment and in the stillness, we are simply in the present moment. We see reality as it truly is, without the clouded vision from the past. And so when we're in this state of stillness, when we're in this state of openness, our heart is open, our body is relaxed. And if you just think of it for a moment, if you take a breath, exhale through your mouth, and relax your body. When your body is relaxed, it is open to receive. And when we are open to receive, we receive the subtle cues and the messages to move forward. So this, in essence, is aligned action. So again, we have Aries, ruled by Mars. Mars is the planet of action. And when we're in alignment, when we find the stillness and the presence, we move in alignment with that guidance coming through from our higher self, from source, from God, from goddess. We move step by step. And we look at this now because we have always the two polarities at play. We can either be in alignment or we can be out of alignment. So because Mars is this fiery energy, Aries is this active principle that moves us forward, there's a lot of momentum right now. So it can also, if we're out of alignment, cause us to get overheated, to have arguments, to be in an ego struggle internally. So when we are out of balance, we see it as the mind playing a tug of war and then not being able to move ourselves because we're so stuck in our mind. Or if we're externally projecting that disharmonious energy of Aries and Mars, we start to have battles on the outside in our relationships. And the theme of that becomes the I'm right, you're wrong, and the blame game. And so this energy really asks us to look inside. So because the moon is feminine and reflective and receptive, it's always asking us to look inside, to see where we are in alignment, where we are out of alignment, and how we can make little changes to adjust ourselves to be in that flow and alignment with the energies presented to us. And so this is really an invitation, and I'm speaking a bit more right now into this full moon in Aries because we have not yet reached that new moon in Libra, which is coming up in a few days. So we have 2 weeks to work with this full moon energy, approximately, until the new moon peaks. And then there's that transition where we start moving into the new moon energy. And we work through our intentions and our creations and putting things out as we're like starting to create and manifest. So new moons are really great for manifestation. And full moons can also be really great for manifestation. If you think about the moon being full, right? I talked about first the new moon being the dark phase of the moon. The full moon is at the lightest and brightest point. It is highlighting both all the things that are not working and all the things that are working. So we can go and ride on either of those waves, and we can work with both, right? So we can jump onto that timeline where we're highlighting everything that's working and keep moving forward with that momentum, right? So we have this Aries supporting us with momentum and keep working with that highlighted area. And then when we're out of alignment, we can see what is necessary to let go, where we can drop habits and behaviors and even relationships, because Libra is relationships. So we have the sun sign supporting it. And sometimes, when we're on this journey of evolution and ascension, relationships dissolve on their own. And I have a personal experience with this. I was at a wedding yesterday, and I have a person who is very close, near and dear to my heart, always will be. And now it is from a distance that this relationship is. My heart will always be open, my love will always be there. And our lives are so different that the vibrational frequency isn't a match anymore. And there was a moment where I felt triggered yesterday because everyone was taking pictures. And, in the past, there was always that, let's take a picture together. And it was always exciting. And, there was so much love there. And I was not seen at all when it was picture time, and I was actually taking pictures of them with others, and that was it. And I, at a moment of trigger, feeling left out, feeling like, oh my God, wow, things are so different. And then, I centered myself, and it was like, well, this is how it is. This is what happens when we grow, when we evolve, when we ascend. Things change. And when we're able to see it from that bigger vantage point, it's a lot easier to let go and release and show up however we can to be in alignment with our own truth, right? I will never stop loving the people that have left my life because we're not a vibrational match anymore. Yet I may not have the same relationship that we had in the past, and that's okay. Because as we grow, everything is rearranging in the universe around us, right? So more aligned relationships will come in as the misaligned relationships dissolve. And sometimes that creates growing pains, sometimes it's harder to let go. And I mean, I can speak into this, that this has been a process for me, because it's not that this is the first time that I've had this experience with this person in my life, and it's been a process. So this trigger still showed up, and it was really small and really quick, because I've been working through it and I can see the bigger picture in it. So this is really an invitation with this full moon in Aries to look at those highlighted aspects of what is in alignment, what is not in alignment, to let's start letting go and releasing what is no longer in alignment. And also how we relate to ourselves. That is very important. How we relate to ourselves, right? How we treat ourselves. So remember, Aries is amplifying that ego battle or alignment with truth and right action. Aligned action. So I also want to speak into briefly the full moon being at that highlighted point and at its peak. This is also a time where our emotions, because the moon represents emotions, so no matter what sign the full moon is in, we are experiencing this peak of emotions. And I typically start feeling it 3 days before, and then the 3 days after the new moon. It's kind of like it starts releasing. And it's like there's residual of the energy, but you can still feel that peak and that high point kind of moving beyond that full moon peak, right? So it's like as you approach the full moon, then we have the peak and then the release of it. So and this is the same for the new moon too. It's like a couple days before, a couple days after. And it's like, this is kind of the energy where we want to work with these energies at its most intentional point. And then we can keep riding that wave for the approximate 2 weeks of the new moon and the full moon, working with those energies. So remembering that when we're in that full moon peak, whatever we are feeling during that time will be amplified. And sometimes it's like when we're in the state of unawareness, we're wearing our insides outside and not even aware of it, right? So this is the invitation to really reflect inward and feel what is going on within me. What am I feeling? And does this feel in alignment? And where would I like to go? Or what requires shifting so I can be in alignment? So to wrap this up, I will finish with saying that the full moon, when we peak, we've got those 2 weeks until the new moon. And at the very end, right before the new moon peaks, we have an opportunity to release, to let go. So we can do practices to completely let go and release and dissolve. And then we move into the new moon energy, and the same thing applies. We have the peak, we work with that. And then the next couple of weeks, we work until right before the full moon peaks. And that's an opportune time to work with our intentions and manifestation and really anchoring in that energy of creation. And so I'm going to leave this here for now, and there will be more to come as we approach this eclipse coming up in about 5 days or so, maybe almost 6 days, 5.5. So we're getting there. It's coming, and the energies are going to amplify, and we're going to feel it. So I will be back to share more updates with you. And if this video was helpful, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I can't wait to see you soon. If you have any comments about your experiences with working with the moon or any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Please comment below, and I am looking forward to sharing more with you very soon.